network standing by. All Republic communications are encrypted.
I believe that we are live. Yes, we are. Fuck you, OBS. Whatever the fuck your name is. Overpriced, even though you're free. Hello, everybody. I'm Opie. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing well on this Saturday. It's raining where I am, I think. Or at least I believe it will be. My name's Opie.
Wait, hold on. It's Saturday?
It'll be Saturday when this video comes out.
Oh. But we're filming this on Thursday.
Yes, we're filming this on Thursday. It'll come out on Saturday, and it'll probably rain on Saturday. I was predicting the future by using the weather app, because that's how people do things.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed. Anyway, my name's Opie. This is Scrub. We're doing another podcast.
Bye.
You can't stop me from doing what I love. So, we're talking about the Jedi and relationships and how the Jedi are terrible at them. Would you like to, add anything to that? Because I'm pretty sure you're the master of all that is, everything having to do with that conversation.
Oh, I cannot wait to have. I'm so happy we decided to have this conversation.
She is
you
very
have
excited.
no idea.
Yeah. She's very excited. So, getting into the Jedi Order. The Jedi Order are not very good at relationships at all. The best way I could put it is from what I read, 4,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. I'm not doing this. This fucking Raph posted that weird ass fucking gif of Mike Wazowski with fucking Sully's face on it. It is tripping me the fuck out just looking at this damn gif, or this gif as people want to call them, because they're fucking savages. But yeah, some people in the Jedi Order are not very happy about the fact that, relationships are a thing, because that leads to jealousy, and emotional attachment leads to anger, frustration, suffering, all that good shit that causes people to want to turn to the dark side of the Force.
So hold on. I'm gonna pull something out just to also at the beginning of this podcast. Yes, I'm pulling up the novel. So in my hand, I have the Star Wars Master and Apprentice novel by Claudia Gray, right?
It's the new one?
The newer one that was released in 2019, I believe.
Okay.
And so, yes, and just basically, if you haven't read it already, I think it's a good read. It's fun. Is it my favorite? No, I feel I think it's just fun to read. It's not my favorite, but it does cover the relationship between Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, how it was pretty rocky, because both are completely different people.
Yeah.
One is a rule follower, one is very unorthodox, as in not a rule follower. And it that's the dynamic the book covers.
Right.
But chapter 1 here is part of basically the Jedi Code, right off the bat. It's the first thing that is told.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no emotion, there is peace. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no passion, there is a serenity. There is no chaos, there is harmony. Whoever wrote the Jedi Code, Qui-Gon, and never had to deal with the Hutts. That's the first part of the book.
Basically, the first part of the book, the very first sentence, is just Qui-Gon Jinn being like, "Wow, these rules kind of fucking suck."
They kind of suck.
They do.
What struck me as interesting that I think would fall under that whole conversation of being against romance, being in love with somebody,
right.
Is the whole no passion, and then emotion.
Yeah. No passion and no
Yeah.
emotion, just pure, you know.
Peace and serenity.
Yeah, which is total bullshit, to be completely honest, because, like, given the fact that you're actively already putting, like, so many people, like, the Jedi Order was already made up of, like, 10,000 people, like, during the time of the Clone Wars. And you're trying,
About, yeah.
yeah, and you're trying to tell me that you can successfully get 10,000 people to not have any sort of emotional relationship with anyone? Doubt, my guy. That is a massive amount of doubt.
Exactly. I 100%. I would put $1,000 on the table and say that obviously didn't happen. It obviously that didn't work. That rule
Oh, no.
of there being no romance, love, emotional attachments
Yeah.
did not work clearly.
Oh, yeah.
Even the best and brightest of Jedi fell in love.
Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. He fell in love twice, which is really weird. Well, I mean,
That's
yeah.
yeah.
Fucking Siri Tachi.
No, but
I have.
there is context of the situation as to why he's saying fucking Siritachi.
Yeah, okay,
but...
so effectively, the reason why I hate Siritachi, not because of canon in any way, shape, or form. It's because that scrub gaslit me into hating Siritachi because I thought she was I thought she was an asshole. Like, she wrote this entire fucking novelization where she effectively made it to where Siritachi was trying to have a physical, like, just a strictly physical relationship with Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Obi-Wan Kenobi got his heart so broken that he went to fucking Kiadi motherfucking Mundi to learn how to cut himself off from all emotion. It worked, and she's a bitch for doing that.
Okay. Context, like it's something I've been working on. It's a story, so it's not like, yes, is it my fault that I've somehow managed to demonize Siritachi's character,
Yes.
and therefore like put a massive target on my back for all the Legends fans who adore her? Yes. But it was not exactly my intention. I wanted, there is like, it's part of this conversation, because let's talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi for a second.
Yeah.
And Siritachi, because I feel like we've already covered Anakin and Padme a little bit in the
We
previous
did that,
podcast.
We did that a lot in the previous podcast. But for like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Siritachi, Siritachi was the apprentice of Adi Gallia, I think it was, for like a short time.
Adi
Gallia.
Yes.
Or she had another master. I'm not completely sure. But either way, what
I
is 100% certain is that Siritachi went with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn on like a lot of missions. And effectively, they, as teenagers, well, with her being 2 years younger than Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is still fucking weird, especially given the fact that,
Okay, listen, we'll get to that. Let's just talk about what we know that's already been published in like canon, in both Legends and canon itself.
In Legends, Siritachi goes with Siritachi goes with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn, multiple missions. They, in a certain mission, if I can bring it up real quickly, because I know...
Yeah.
I might have to pause it a little bit because this is going to be wild. Siritachi... It was one of the Jedi Apprentice novels back in the day, like back in the early 2000s, whenever they were coming out with, like, books actively, like every other month.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi and Siritachi effectively got to this point where they were discussing discussing emotions and discussing, like, their relationship. Like, after years upon years of being together, doing all these missions together, being friends, they finally discussed, oh, hey, we're kind of, like, compatible and all that. So we can form a relationship, and, we're both good for each other. But then Yoda has to be a dick and intervene in that whole situation. And he has to spill the beans on Qui-Gon Jinn falling in love and becoming highly infatuated with Jedi Master Tal, who was tortured to death. And Qui-Gon Jinn was infatuated with her so much that he effectively nearly went to the dark side of the Force. And he got a little bit of a taste of it. And he almost turned to the dark side, which, you know, it's bad juju for anyone of the Jedi to, you know, go to the dark side of the Force, because, you know, the dark side corrupts everything that it touches and all that shit.
You had me a bad juju.
It's bad juju for any of the Jedi to turn to the dark side. Did you not know that?
Okay, yes, I understand.
So yeah, they decided we're not gonna, you know, discuss our relationship after that, and they effectively banned each other. They banned themselves from talking about it, and it was quite, you know, yeah, it's that. It's kind of screwed up, to be honest.
It is. I think that is sad, and now that you said you read the novel.
I read part of it, more like skimmed through it.
Skimming through is good enough, but the fact that the only problem is that I never had like access to these novels, so like I only went off of what I could read from Wikipedia.
Right.
But I mean, talking about like that is just, it is like, it's unfortunate, it's sad, that the two at the same time, both of them were quite young.
Yeah.
And you know, and I guess it's very mature for, you know, for them to, you know, say like, okay, we can't, you know, be together. We're not going to talk about it anymore. But it's also very, very disheartening to have basically adolescents, you know, have to force themselves to not be able to sort of express themselves like affectionately to another person. Just because it could lead to attachment. We don't take into consideration that adolescents in general, like, we are like, they are still developing. Even if you're a young adult past 18, you are still developing. It's not until like when your brain fully develops, I think it like completes at what 25?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Like 21 to 25. I have to look this up, but your brain is still developing, and you're still in your early, like your young days, and you have all these hormones. It's like you need a way to, you know, talk. Like, it's okay. I think it was okay for them to talk about it. It's very healthy that, you know, Siri and Obi were able to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I have a question about Qui-Gon. Did Qui-Gon ever do that? Or was he just infatuated with Tal?
Oh, that's a very
Did
good
he ever
question.
address it with Tal? I think that's the one thing. I know the comics are out there, and I'm sure there's context to it. But the thing is that Qui-Gon is a different person compared to Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Do I think Obi-Wan would have fallen to the dark side? I mean, there's always a chance. But I think I like to think that Obi-Wan has more self-control compared to Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Respectfully so. I think it is a shame that Obi-Wan couldn't feel like he could pursue this relationship with Siri, and, you know, vice versa. Would they have left the order for one another? That is a good question. What was the answer to that?
I don't think there was an answer to that. I don't even think they really talked about leaving the Jedi Order. It was just like, oh hey, let's just start a relationship. Whatever, you know, screw the Jedi code and whatnot. We can just, you know, be in a relationship and it'll be fine.
Okay, so that right there is telling, because, well, they're young at the same time. They're young. They don't know anywhere else but the Jedi, you know, but the temple. So that makes sense. But it's like a double-edged sword, and it kind of sucks. If they wanted to be together, they'd have to leave, but they're too young. So they can't be together.
Okay. I believe this was during... Okay, this was after the Xanatos incident. And Xanatos...
Wait, hold on. Oh, is this in Legends context?
Yeah, this is in context of Legends. According to Legends, this is after the Xanatos incident. And Xanatos died in 44 BBY. So, this is kind of screwy. Work with me here. According to my estimate, if he died at 44 BBY, Siri Tachi would have been 11, and Obi-Wan Kenobi would have been 13.
Wait a second. You're telling me that these two...
An 11 and a 13-year-old, yes. They were talking about their relationship.
Okay, hold on. A pause. I'm gonna pause
Yeah.
right there.
You just went on that whole
No
thing.
way.
And these two were 11 and 13 years old during this time in which they were talking about their emotions. Because, here we go. It was not until a few years into their friendship that Tachi and Kenobi discovered their new feelings for each other. I already told you about that. But this was during the time that a few months following the Xanatos incident, Jedi Master Adigalia chose Tachi to be her new Padawan learner. The two accompanied Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn on several missions, such as Keegan, Simplead 12, Saurus, with Galia, la 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 la. Okay. So, it says here, Siri Tachi helped Kenobi rescue Jinn, a Force user, from a Force-obsessed scientist named Jenna Zimmer. Later, Kenobi saved her from a bounty hunter known as Ona Nobis. Before this, Tachi was headstrong and patient, yada yada yada. Okay, so around this time, they would have been preteen to teenage years, I believe.
Okay. That's even younger than I anticipated. I thought at least it would be the ages of, like 13 to 15.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of did the math because 32 BBY. And so 32 BBY, Obi-Wan is like 25. So to get to 44, that would be plus 12.
Yeah.
That means Obi-Wan was 12. And then Siri would have been 10.
Uh-huh.
So
okay.
this is interesting to me because here's my question. Are they like, I mean, I get it makes sense because the Jedi younglings are extremely intelligent. I know that they have like their development is they're cultivated in their development in terms of like communication with one another. It makes sense why it seems like they're very mature for their age, which it makes sense. Is there's actually a quote in that Master and Apprentice novel saying how mature Obi-Wan is for a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
But it just, I don't know. I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact that like these two, they were so young, but were so mature about what it is they were talking about.
Yeah.
And so self-aware. I still think it's messed up that they couldn't be affectionate with one another, at least in the innocent way that they absolutely should be, like holding hands. That's cute. But
yeah, that just gets
I don't know.
It gets on with the fact that the Jedi Order basically does not want any emotional attachment with literally any of their apprentices or basically any of the Jedi cannot have any sort of emotional attachment in any way, shape, or form, even through like friendships, because that could lead eventually to them being put through the dark side of the Force. And what's screwed up about that is, like, for one, you're already putting these, let's call them what they are, they're literal children. Like, most apprentices or most Padawans get their master by the age of, like, 7, 8, 9 at the least.
Essentially.
And you're already being like, okay, let's not only take these children into an environment that they don't understand, but let's throw them into, like, let's give them a parental figure for them to be watched over. Let's give them a parental figure to basically learn off of, and let's give them a parental figure to basically, bond with. You're essentially telling these children, here's a parental figure for you, but you can't be attached to them because that will lead you to the dark side of the Force. And then, as they grow older, like with what happened with Anakin, they start developing emotional attachments. They start developing, like, romantic feelings for some individuals, aka Padme Amidala, and in Obi-Wan's case, aka Siri Tachi. And you basically tell them, oh, hey, you can't have, like, attachments towards individuals who you want to have a romantic relationship with, because that will also lead to the dark side of the Force. So any relationship in any regard, any way, shape, or form, whether it be parental, whether it be friendly, or whether it be romantically, any relationship in that regard will lead to the dark side of the Force, no matter what you do. And that screws with everybody, no matter what you do, because you're effectively telling all of these people, relationships are bad, you can't have relationships, and you'll turn to the dark side if you have one. And that effectively led Anakin to turn to the dark side of the Force, because he had to keep his literal marriage of 4 fucking years a secret from everyone, including his best friend. Even though Obi-Wan Kenobi knew the entire time.
Oh, he totally knew the entire time.
Yeah, everyone
But
knew.
here's my thing. Here's the thing, again, I'm still referring back to that novel, but in that, the Master and Apprentice, there was that discussion about attachment, and even the whole thing about, like, it's like, it was the whole thing about attachments. And in the book, like, there's a Jedi named Rael Avros who talks about it and saying, like, obviously, I wish I could find, like, the page specifically. But basically he says it's like, well, obvious, like, you can form attachments, but obviously if you raise somebody, of course you're gonna love them in some shape or form. It'd be like you practically raise someone, and it's like, it's basically, like, insane to not feel some kind of grief, and in a sense, if they die,
right?
Whether that be the master or the Padawan. And I mean, but we get a glimpse of that, of the dynamic again in the book. It's just, gosh, I wish I could find that page and just read it. But let's move on from talking about, like, Siri and Obi-Wan, because no, we're still talking about them, but I'm gonna throw a wrench in the cogwheel. Satine Kryze, go.
God, Satine. Okay, here's the fucked up thing about Satine, though, because the whole Satine thing happens when Obi-Wan Kenobi is much older. This motherfucker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, as a 20, maybe 19-year-old man, was risen up Satine Kryze, a Duchess of Mandalore, mind you. He was rising up a Duchess. Motherfucker, I swear to God. The weird thing about this is, like, a 19-year-old Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's supposed to be, like, the future of the Jedi Order, one of the brightest minds, and someone who's so dedicated to the Jedi Code that he would never do anything to break it. Motherfucker, you're risen up the fucking Duchess of Mandalore over here, right?
It's not even that. It's the fact that he said verbatim that
if you would say the word, I would
have
left the Jedi Order. You asshole. But then, motherfucker met the love of his life. This is Dr. Pepper, by the way. Motherfucker met the love of his life, told her to her face while she was being held hostage in the Clone Wars TV show, if you had said the word, I would have left the Jedi Order. Not even Anakin fucking Skywalker was thinking about leaving the Jedi Order. He was too committed to that shit to even think about it. But a 19-year-old Obi-Wan Kenobi was so infatuated, so in love with Satine, that he would leave the Jedi Order for her. Explain me
You
that.
cannot. I'm just gonna say this. No, here's the thing: 19 to 21. They had to be in their early 20s,
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
I don't do math.
You
I'm from
cannot
Oklahoma.
convince me that something happened between. Like, obviously, we know that they fell in love.
Right.
Sure. But you can't convince me that there wasn't something significant between them.
Oh,
What happened on that 1 year
look,
that it changed their lives
Scrub.
forever?
We
Literally.
know what happened. The character is living proof. We know what happened.
I know. No, listen. If I doubt that Dave Filoni would ever watch this podcast.
Fuck
But
you,
we're
Dave Filoni,
looking
first
at
of all.
you, Dave.
Fuck you,
You
Dave.
better come out
You
with this.
son of a bitch.
It's been years.
Just say Obi-Wan Kenobi is the kid's dad. That's all we want. Because everyone
That's
knows.
all we want.
Everyone already fucking knows. He has the same facial features. He has the same eye color. He has the same, like, head shape. The motherfucker acts exactly like Obi-Wan Kenobi. And your ass, with your fucking cowboy hat, is gonna fucking tell me on stage at fucking Star Wars celebrations that, oh, he might not be Obi-Wan's son. Fuck you, first of all. Don't gaslight me into thinking that this little shit that looks exactly like Obi-Wan Kenobi is not the spawn of Obi-Wan motherfucking Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi had relations. Adult relations with the Duchess of Mandalore, who then had a child 9 months later. But you're gonna give
And
shit
there's
to
no way,
Anakin
there's
Skywalker.
no way that he could have known, by the way.
Yeah.
I doubt that she would have ever told him.
Right, no, she wouldn't have told anybody. Because she knows with all of her heart that if she would have told somebody who this fucking kid's father was, that he would have immediately have been expelled from the Jedi Order. If Obi-Wan did know, he would have left the Jedi Order immediately. Because he would have he would have gone to raise his fucking kid. Something had to happen between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Satine for all of this to go down. What happened specifically? I cannot tell you. Because we do not have any information on that yet.
Nobody can. There's nothing.
There's nothing.
And it might just remain a mystery.
The Obi-Wan Kenobi Satine, since that episode, back in like 2008, 2009, it's been 13 years since all of that shit went down in Star Wars The Clone Wars. Maybe even sooner. Because it released in 2008, like 15, 14 years later, we finally get some information, except we don't. Because all we know is that Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn went to Mandalore for some reason, or went to the planet in which Duchess Satine rules over, and what quadrant she rules over, what family she has. Something happened. Obi-Wan Kenobi decided to stay for like a year. And somewhere...
Well, they had to stay to protect her, is all we know.
Yeah. Something happened. And by something happened, I mean something happened. And the two of them started a relationship somewhere in that entire thing, actively had sex, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi fucked off back to the Jedi Temple. Let's not mince words here. They fucked. Someone knows that someone has to release some information, because this is stupid. Y'all are sitting on a literal fucking gold mine of Obi-Wan Kenobi content that you can release at any time, that you can reveal in any moment, having Moulin Rouge fans go fucking crazy over, and you're deciding to actively not do anything about it. For what? Anyway, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Satine already have this relationship. Something happened during that. Corgi has not been mentioned at least once in any of the new comics, any of the new books, any of the new sources of media. Not even one of the Disney Channel fucking Forces of Destiny bullshit has ever talked about Corky. So again, that's why I say they're literally sitting on a gold mine of information relating not just to Obi-Wan Kenobi, but the spawn of Obi-Wan Kenobi. But for some reason, they
The
don't want to talk
potential,
about it.
because we can't confirm or deny, just like Dave Filoni can't
my
confirm
God.
or deny.
Why? But why? He can just say, yes, he is. That's all he has to do. He already knows he is. He writ him that way. He wrote him that way. Like,
But until we hear it from him, it's not canon.
I
You have
hate
to
it.
understand this, Opie.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I really, really do. Because
But here's my thing. Here's my thing. Well, I don't want to go off at any more tangents.
Right.
So I'm gonna we'll cut it at Corky, like the Corky talk right here, because I feel like we got everything out. But here's the thing: it's like, what was the difference? What was different about Satine that Obi-Wan, besides being forced not to engage in such a relationship, um, with Suritachi? What was the difference? How did Satine become the love of his life? I know that it boils down to we need to find out what happened between them exactly. But we got an idea of what happened between him and Suritachi. But what was different with Satine?
Okay. First of all, the entire relationship is basically a Moulin Rouge reference. So there's that. Like, they made one Moulin Rouge reference and it became the entire structure of Obi-Wan Kenobi's life. So that's awesome. But in regard to his actual relationship with Satine, I feel like because Obi-Wan Kenobi was even older than he was whenever he was in love with Suritachi, that he not only became wiser in his years, like in like the 6 years that he probably had a relationship in between his relationship with Suritachi ending and eventually meeting Satine, maybe 6, 7, 8 years, depending on where you want to put that, because nobody else wants to talk about it. But I feel like it's about Satine being more independent and more like, she's not part of the Jedi Order. So she says what she thinks. She already has, like, you know, authority. She's an authority figure on top of that. And the fact that Obi-Wan Kenobi, she challenges him in some way, shape, or form. Because their very first meeting in Star Wars The Clone Wars, these two are fucking nagging at each other. And they are going crazy on it. Even to the point where Anakin's in the background like, oh shit, what's happening here? This is awesome. And
this is true.
And Obi-Wan Kenobi and Satine are just going back and forth. They're mildly salty. They're insulting each other. And they're also giving each other, like, you know, small nips of, like, compliments here and there. Until the part where, you know, Satine's life is actually in danger. And Obi-Wan actively in this time tells her the absolute truth. And, you know, she loves Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi actively loves her. The problem, however, he's a Jedi. She's a Duchess. Just like with the whole Anakin and Padme bit. He's a Jedi. She's a senator. It's like poetry. It fucking rhymes. That's my ideology on it. She not only challenges him by already being like a strong-willed and very intelligent individual, but she also is an authority figure who can also match him wit per wit. And she's not like, you know, the smug aristocratic you know, royalty from like Coruscant or whatever, because all those motherfuckers, I feel like every senator and every royalty figure from Coruscant, I feel like all they do is go to the Galactic Opera House.
Oh my god. That should be the next podcast.
The Galactic Opera House, or just people on Coruscant?
we'll call it that, aka the Senate.
Oh god. That's gonna be a rough one.
It's gonna be a rough conversation.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a real one. But yeah, I feel like what Obi-Wan Kenobi found so, attractive towards Satine was the fact that she was an authority figure who had a lot of wit and who wasn't like any of the other authority figures on Coruscant. He found somebody who was genuine and who he actually grew to have an attachment for. Maybe that has something to do with it, or maybe it was, subtle manipulation by
I
Qui-Gon, who was like being like,
honestly,
"Oh,
here's
you
the
just
thing.
you stay here with her. I'll be right back." And then he never
Here's
comes
the
back.
thing. I first of all, I definitely see Qui-Gon being like, kiss, kiss, That's a joke.
Kiss.
No, he would have seen it, and I think if Qui-Gon had, like, I can imagine Qui-Gon seeing the two bicker or having a moment, he would have just like backed out of the room
Oh,
or
yeah.
turned his head. Well, I didn't see anything.
I'm
Besides
not
that,
part of this.
I'd like to think that maybe Obi-Wan sort of kind of desires to something that Satine has, and that's in a sense to be free,
Right.
as in because it's like he just like how he's the complete opposite to Qui-Gon in ideals. It's the same thing with Satine, except Satine wears her heart on her sleeve,
Mm-hmm.
and she's incredibly passionate. Not, which is obviously something in the code that is discouraged.
Yeah.
That's something that it seems like Obi-Wan, maybe he desires to be passionate at times. I wonder if, sometimes it feels like he is forcing himself to, to keep from being passionate, especially when it came to Anakin and how, obviously cares about him, but I wonder if it's that dynamic that, like you said, drew like himself to her.
Right. And also, I feel like half of that has to do with the Jedi Code, because Obi-Wan Kenobi, he tries his best to connect to the Jedi Code as much as possible. And maybe like this slow amount of time that he has to actually grow an attachment towards a person without the constant eye of the Jedi Order being on him at all times, maybe that helped him like ease up a little bit and actually develop a relationship with somebody, i.e. that being Satine, obviously. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the podcast. We will see you later on down the line. Make sure to hit that notification bell, that subscribe button, hit that like button, share this podcast if you want to with your friends, with your family, whoever, your dog, I don't care. Use it for white noise. I don't care. Just watch the whole hour-long thing. Subscribe to the OnlyFans if you want to. If I ever
There
make
is
one.
no OnlyFans.
There is
I have
no.
to clarify again for everyone. There is no OnlyFans.
There
listen to
there
him.
might be an OnlyFans. There might be.
No.
I'm gonna set one up.
No, there will not
Yeah,
be.
I wanna,
And by
I wanna
the
make
way,
one.
every time and anytime he says something, he's exaggerating. This man loves to exaggerate
No,
things all
nah,
the time.
I never
All the time.
exaggerate about my OnlyFans. Never.
There is no OnlyFans.
There is an OnlyFans.
Oh my
It-
gosh.
it's-
Okay, y'all.
It's Mr. President. OnlyFans.
Oh,
Look it up.
stop.